All right, so y'all know what it is. This is the recap that I do every week on Facebook. This is the weekly TeamAlliance recap, where we discuss how we did for the week in trading. And some of you who are not actually taking trades yet, we talk about how we did in training as well. David, I see you as well. All right, cool. So when you guys come on, just let me know how you did this week in trading. Let me know this week how training was for you. And you could talk about training. You could talk about like the subjects from the live streams, because there's a lot of information that's just out right now as far as like the stuff that we have dialogues about that really are valuable. Just valuable in general. Like this week I was talking about and really asking the question, like I had like an open question for anybody. My question was like, what other business aside from trading, as far as a home-based business, is still operating at 100%? And then I even went as far to ask, like, what business, period, aside from like essential businesses like gas stations and hospitals and, you know, funeral homes, are operating at 100%. So I was very curious to know that this week. Still didn't really get that much of a response because I guess, I don't know. But I am interested in that. So y'all could talk about that. Talk about how training was. Talk about how the live streams were. Just talk about in general how much value that you actually got this week, you know, from the TA body of work. Jay Carly said training was great per usual. The lives were very, very important this week. I agree. Definitely. Jay Carly 1-0 for the week. 8-0 for the project. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Moving on up. That's that slow and steady right there. Can't reiterate enough the importance of slowing things down, taking your time. Very important to put yourself in position to do that, in my opinion, because the slowing down of your process is what really speeds everything up that takes place, believe it or not. It doesn't seem like that for the average person, of course, but when you start to move that way, like, you know, within the walls of TA, you see for yourself. You see for yourself. The value is is remarkable. It's like the slower you go, the more that you elevate within your actual skill set. And what happens is it's a permanent elevation. So as you continue to progress, and we talked about this actually last week, as you progress, you are building up the second nature aspect of what it is that you do. So as something is becoming second nature for you, all you're doing is rinsing and repeating the process and the behavior and the habits that made it second nature to begin with. You see what I'm saying? So the same thing that brought you to the point where it's second nature for you, now the habits that created the second nature ability for you to execute is also second nature. It's crazy when you think about it. It's like, all right, the very thing that allowed me to make myself second nature with this is second nature for me too. Does that make sense? In other words, like, I'll give you an example. We know that training and repetition creates the ability for you to execute the process, second nature. So what happens when training is second nature for you? You see, like, the loop that you're creating. it's a loop it's ongoing and it moves in perpetuity now, because one thing created this, and the very thing that you're doing habitually here created this habit, and this is a habit too. So it's like habit, second nature, and it never stops. When you do it that way, you can't stop it. This is why creating the right habits in the beginning are so important, because whatever you're doing here on this side is creating what you do on this side. You don't want to create terrible habits and those terrible habits become second nature. Does that make sense? This is what most people do. They create a habit of deviating. So now you create a habit of losing. Because deviation leads to losing. That's how that goes. We flipping it around. We're going to have training and everything that we're supposed to do on this side. It creates the execution. And that becomes second nature on this side. And then this is second nature. The way that you're training is second nature. So it continually elevates over here. So when you look at somebody that moves, it's like, damn, man, they so consistent. How are they doing that? It's because they created the right habits in the beginning. That's why. Jay Carly said no losses for the year. 5 months. Wow. You see how the time goes by? Ramon said, want to know this week as well. 12-0 for the project. What? Oh boy. You're creeping up. Y'all are creeping up. So Jay Carly says she's 8-0. Ramon 12-0. Jay Carly said didn't get filled on 2 this week, but that's okay. Clicked in as soon as it priced out. Okay. Stacy 0-1. Stacy, what happened? What day was that? And yeah, I'm more than anything curious. What day did that actually happen? What's happening, Lewis? Yeah, and just talk about that. What's up, Jamal? So when you guys come on, let me know how y'all did this week. What's up, Shawnee? Whether you're taking trades or you're training, you know, whatever you're doing. I know some of you are not taking trades yet, but I do want to hear from you with regards to how training was for you this week. You know, whatever value you might have gotten from the live streams, from the YouTube lives. There was some really good content this week. Like we had some very good dialogue about a number of different things this week on YouTube, on the live stream. So I definitely want to hear back from you with regards to that as well. Stacey said, all I will say is that will be my last. That's enough said. That's enough said. Remember that you guys are always welcome to talk about whatever's going on with you. But at the same time, if you don't want to talk about it, that's cool too, because sometimes you just got to work through whatever you need to work through on your own. I mean, not saying that has to be the case, but if that is the case, I understand. But just remember that you also can share and you can dialogue and talk about it too. Yeah, you already know that. Jay Carly said that means that you know why. Oh, that was the same day. Oh, man, oh, man. I remember that day. I think that was Thursday. Yeah, so I mean, obviously you know your emotional and mental frame of mind wasn't there. So I understand, and I'm so sorry to hear about your friends, first of all. But we're gonna get through everything that's going on. I mean, there's a lot of like there's things in general going on right now in the world and just around us. Like, you know, we dealing with the pandemic every day, so it is a lot. I just found out yesterday Bill Withers passed away. Rest in peace to Bill Withers. He was 81. I think they said that he passed from heart complications or something like that. So very sad, man. But I'm grateful and appreciative for what he left behind, without a doubt. Lewis, I'm still training and looking at feedbacks about the market. Yeah, Lewis, this your first week, right? I think you signed up the other day, if I'm not mistaken. What day was that? Thursday. Yeah, so very, very early in the game. Lewis, have you watched? Did you get to 301 yet? Shawnee, he said, what the heck? He said 1.5 and 0. That's funny. 1.5 and 0 for the week. My second trade was partial filled, 27 contracts instead of 63. I intend to make myself more available. Good stuff, man. I was waiting for you to play Bill Withers during the party last night. I didn't know when I was doing the party. I didn't even know yet. I found out when I got in the house, man. I found out when I got in the house. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't play it on the party, because it would have changed the whole emotional vibration on the party. Like, it would have just went somewhere else. But I'm gonna get some Bill in there. Patty said prayers for Stacy. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. And Stacy know that everybody is here for her, so you know that's a given. TA's family. Oh, that's why you didn't say to play him. I didn't even know you was on there, Shawnee. Shawnee be in the background. He be all in the cut. Walker, 3 follow-throughs. 3 and 0? 3 and 0 for this week, Walker? He said 2 got filled. Well, actually 2 and 0 then. Yeah, the party last night was definitely, we did need that. Just to lift us up a little bit, you know. Melanie said fierce and 0 for the week. I like that. She said with 301 on repeat. I'm telling you, see, that's another thing about 301, man. 301 is forever and 0. If you putting in that 301 work, it's forever and 0. I'm trying to tell you. That was the example I just gave about on this side, what's creating second nature on this side. And then this becomes second nature. So if you got 301 to repeat over here, it's going to create your execution properly as second nature And then 301 on repeat is also second nature. So there's no break in that pattern. It's just boom, boom, boom. And second nature is executing at the same time. So it's just a continuous boom, 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 boom. Training, execution, training, execution. And it's all second nature because the training is second nature. 301 on repeat is second nature. You don't got to think about it no more. See, in the beginning, you have to make a conscious effort to do it. After a while, you don't. You just do it. So the same way that after a while, 301 becomes the habit, over time, your execution becomes the habit. And the same thing that's creating the habitual execution is the habitual 301. And you're unstoppable. And this is what I mean. When you observe the market now, everything is happening naturally like it's autopilot because you've created an entire, just a web. It's just a web of winning, man. You winning. But you start winning by 301 on repeat. So that rinse and repeat, it starts with 301. Rich 2-0. Taking it slow, patience grows as training flows. Yeah, I think Rich is 19-0 now, right? Is that right, Rich? Shani said, what you said in the live yesterday about not unpacking every behavior that market exhibits, except for the behavior we're looking for. Yes. Yes. And that's second nature for you to do. Oh my gosh. Crazy, man. Crazy. Like, just think about that. David, hey Mark, TA, I've been making the most of this quarantine time to train heavily. Listening to 301 nonstop. I was 3-0 this past week and should be done with Project 21 in another week or so. Goal is to continue to 100 contracts. Come on, man. Listen to the first part of what he just said. I've been making the most of this quarantine time to train heavily. $301 on repeat, man. The habit, the second nature. He didn't have to think about doing that. He just, boom. Oh, we quarantining? All right, 301 heavy. It works, man. Like this, it works. Like, this is what we do, though. Notice the similarities between the results that people get and the behavior that people do. It's not an accident that everybody that's heavy on 301 is heavy within their own time with the results that they're getting. You think that that's an accident? No, it's not. It's not an accident. It's on purpose. Rich said 19-0, 1-0 for the slow and steady project. Nice. So in the second account, now you're doing the slow and steady project in that one. Got you. He said adding value to time. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what David just explained. He said, I'm using the quarantine time to train heavily. This is powerful stuff, man. This is powerful. Something else that is happening that I feel. because of the habits that we have just been creating for ourselves, it's really like nothing can interrupt or disrupt what we do because it's habitual. One of the things that I think is important for us to always be mindful of is that there is a moment where this right here, 301, it meets up with your execution process. The moment it doesn't happen right away. So what I'm saying is there's a time period for when you're going to be training and not taking any trades at all. Like you're just not at that point yet. The training and the repetition of it elevates you slowly. Like you don't just say, all right, well, it's going to take me 3 months to train, and then after 3 months, I'll be ready to go live. It doesn't work like that at all. You totally disregard the time. And instead of you thinking about how long you need to train for before you reach the level, you actually realize for the first time that training is something that you're never going to stop doing anyway. Listen to this. One of the biggest mistakes that I think somebody can make is a mental mistake by thinking that there's X amount of time that you train for and then you don't need to do it anymore. This is one of the biggest mistakes that people have made in the past. And this has been proven multiple times over. I've seen it so many different times by different people that have left. They train for a period of time, and then when they think that they reach their point where it's going to be, their execution is good, the simple fact that you severed, it's like you cut yourself off and disconnected from the source that even got you to where you think that you can do it. And not to say that you're not able to do it, because of course there's a level of that, but we're talking about the level of elevation where it's second nature. If you sever the tie between what you do in as far as training, you're literally cutting off the ability for it to become second nature in your execution. You never get to second nature. Listen to what I'm saying. When you cut yourself off, you never get to second nature through execution. How can you? Because second nature don't have a number on it. It don't have a time on it. That's like saying, all right, well, this will be second nature, within about 5-6 months. You don't know that. You have to understand that second nature means your second nature. It's not the same for everybody, is it? What's your nature? Hold on, y'all stay with me. What's your first nature? Uh-oh. See, we about to shift right now. This right here is going to be crazy. Just listen to this for a second. Whatever your first nature is going to perpetuate your second nature. Think about that. So your second nature becomes the continuation of what you do as first nature. What do you naturally do? What's your natural thing that you do? How do you think? And this is why people mess up. Because the way that they're thinking from the beginning is already off. You already had in your mind predetermined, I'm going to train for about 3 months. That should be good. You put the limitation in your head. You did that. So now you give yourself 3 months. And within 3 months, what you're doing is you're squeezing what you think is the proper execution into your behavior. But that doesn't mean that that's what actually happens. That means that that's what you think is happening. Well, I've been training for 3 months. You know, I'm gonna be good. Yet you haven't elevated to the point where you even understand yourself yet. There's a bunch of stuff that you don't even get about yourself yet. And you're being exposed throughout that whole time. So what you thinking is going to take place in 3 months is realistically going to take place much longer, because you've already put that seed in your head that that's where you're going to go from the get-go. You put a limitation on yourself already out the gate. Oh, I'm going to give it 3 to 6 months. No, that's not how it works. You got to understand, you're dealing with yourself. So for many of us, we don't even know what we do naturally yet. You know that? You know who lets you know what you do? The market. The market exposes you. It lets you know what you do. Lets you know that you don't have the patience you thought you did. Let you know your discipline is shit. You ain't got no discipline at all. So now once you get exposed, it's like, all right, well, how do I deal with that though? Damn, I'm just realizing I really don't have no patience. That's the first key. That's the seed. That's the self-awareness right there. Market is teaching you self-awareness first. You got to admit. You have to literally admit, you know what? I don't have no patience. Damn. You got to acknowledge the fact that you don't. Instead of being in denial. Nah, I got patience. My patience is good. That if the longer that you stay in denial, the longer it's going to take you. So this is where I've seen so many people go wrong. And the reason I know all of this is because I've just sat back and just studied what they do. Like, I just look at what people be doing. I'm like, I see clearly where you messed up at. You messed up because out the gate, you thought it was only going to take you a few months to begin with. And then during the few months that you were training for, you wasn't really training, right? During the few months you were training for, what was you doing? You was actually in phase 3. Because you over here trying to get trades. You're not over here with the process of execution that came as a result of the process of training. That's not what you did. You see? You over here in phase 3 trying to get trades so that you can make money instead of actually building up the skill set. So that's the mistake that many people have made in the past. And it's always my prayer and my hope that people realize that as soon as they join and as soon as they sign up. That's why I always talk about it, because I'm like, listen, don't create the bad habits out the gate. Don't do it. Start creating the right habits. Well, what's the first thing I should be doing? Mark 301 on repeat. That's the first one. And don't ask me why, and don't try to figure out why. Just do it. 301 on repeat. Well, when do you think I'm going to be able to trade? 301 on repeat. Because until you stop asking that, you're not elevating beyond yourself and your limitation. You asking how long or when is a limitation that you have in your mind. You're putting a limit on yourself instead of allowing yourself to acquire the skill set. Because remember that 301 is not only teaching you the framework for what to do over here. It's also building and developing your patience and your discipline at the same time. At the same time. That's why I get excited when people talk about they're in training. They say, I'm trained 301. I get excited because I know what's going to happen to you. What's going to happen to you is what David just said. When the last time that you heard David even comment on what he did? This is the first time I heard from David, and I don't even know how long about what he is actually doing. Listen to what David said. Let me go back. Let me go back a second, because I want you to understand something. He said, I've been making the most of the quarantine time. 3-0 this past week. Should be done with the project in another week or so. You didn't know what David was doing this whole time, did you? You know what he was doing? 301 on repeat. Second nature of that. Second nature of execution. He never asked me nothing about nothing. Oh, well, Mark, you think I'm ready to start going, think I'm ready? He didn't have to ask me that. 301 made you ready. It's only a matter of time. Like, this is what I'm talking. It's crazy, man. This shit is crazy. Rich said there seems to be a lot more recordings, or should I say recordings at the right time. Yep. That's another habit that we're creating, is recording. Yes. Jay Carly said we posted that at the same time, Rich. Awesome. Rich said when your mindset meets the moments, you'll gain momentum. Rich is over here rapping. Come on, Rich. Matthew said your DNA has to change for anything to become second nature. Uh-oh. That's that first nature shift. Before you realize what you're going to be doing as second nature, you got to be exposed. What's your first nature? What do you do? See, and that's what happens when you allow the market to actually expose you. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Because the market is going to expose you by giving you self-awareness first. You got to admit that you are a certain way. That's the only way you're going to be able to change it. Rich said adding bad habits in the months actually adds time to the process that you wanted to be shorter. Yes, it slows it down. You trying to speed it up and you slowing it down in the process. Versus slowing it down and it actually speeds up. You know why it speeds up when you slow it down? Because when you slow it down, you become precise and uninterrupted with the flow. The repetition kicks in faster. You're not disrupting the process. That's why the results start to happen faster. You trying to get the fast results with the slow work or the no work. You're going to get results, but it ain't going to be the results you want. Rich said, all right, so 301 on repeat, cool. I'm going to watch 296, 302, and 301. You know how that go. See, now what Rich is making reference to is how I give everybody that instruction out the gate. I tell everybody to watch 301 on repeat, and then people go watch video number 6. I said 301 on repeat. Why you watching number 6? See, like that's the point that he made, because Rich literally did everything that I gave instructions to do from the beginning of when he started. And I think he started back in November. He's up to over, Rich, how many times now you watched 301? I know he had probably 1,200 or something like that now. 1,200 views of 301 since he started. So says a lot. Says a lot about your first nature. What's your first nature to do? Your first nature is to not do what you've been instructed to do. Oh boy, here we go. Your first nature is to be hard-headed. Understand that the market don't like hard-headed. And the market punishes hard-headed people. So you want to listen to me or you want to deal with the market? Like, you take your pick. Let me come over here. I missed some comments. Where we at? Oh, I see y'all over here. My bad, Joel. Joel, 2-0 this week. Come on, man. Come on, Joel. Walker had the 2 filled, he said, so he was 2-0. Right? Ramon said, not every fruit ripe at the same time. Right. Right. Everybody is an individual and it happens within your own time, but the process is the same though. The process that you do is the same. The time is going to be different for everybody. That's what people don't like. You want to force the time and you can't do that. Lewis said, you never understand the market because it's always changing. Training is like breathing. Come on. Yo, Lewis is preaching right now. Preach to the choir, man. He said train is like breathing. You have to train after it's closed. Lose sleep. And sometimes not eating. Lewis, you sound like you cut from the same cloth as me. He said it's psychological. See, that's obsessive. I'm like that. Now, you don't have to be like that, but some of us are just like that. I'm like that, definitely. I don't get no sleep at all messing around training. And then when I go to sleep, the training is in my ear too. Ramon said, change your inner nature by going through the process that 301 takes you through. Come on, man. Come on. And Walker said it too. That's the first deviation. Exactly. First deviation is not doing 301 on repeat. You skipping around. I told you to do 301 on repeat. You watch 301 once and then you go into all other numbers in the list. I didn't tell you to do that. And I'm not saying it like, you know, oh, well, you should do everything I say to do. I'm not saying it like that, but I am saying it like that. Because if I'm giving you something specific to do, it's because I know the result of it. I know what is going to happen if you do it. I also know what's going to happen if you don't do it. So as soon as you tell me that something happened, I know that you were not doing that. It's just like how somebody, if I ask somebody, I'm like, all right, what training are you watching? Oh, well, I watched 45. I went to 110. You just started yesterday. 301 on repeat. You don't even know what the framework, you don't even know what MRMH is. And mind you, all you need to know is what MRMH is. And you don't know that yet. But mind you, that's all you need to know. But you don't know. Like, does that make sense? Follow protocol, man. Yeah, we quorum training. Somebody said that yesterday, right? Who said that? I think that was Rich. Rich always got some bars. Quorum training. Yeah, we're gonna have to start using that hashtag all over. Quorum training. Matter of fact, I'm gonna use that today. Thank you. Quorum training. That's hard. Hold up. That's hard. That's hard. Let me see who else is on here. I see Brandy. Hey, Brandy. Brandy, how did you do this week? I know that I think Brandy just signed up a couple of days ago, maybe. Brandy, have you gotten to 301 yet? Jamal said you would know that formula if you watch 301. Exactly. Exactly. You would know the formula of MRMH if you watch. That is exactly right. Oh, quorum training was Nico. Ooh, that's hard. Yo, they going at it between Nico, Ramon, and Rich. I don't know. It's war to copyrights. Oh, okay. So Brandy, how what has your experience been like so far? What training have you gotten to? Did you get to 301 yet? Lewis said, I'm the Indian and you the chief. So I must follow my chief in order for me to be a good Indian. Oh boy. Man. Lewis, you reminded me of Rich right now. You reminded me of Rich. Rich said everything goes to the power of the vibes. Definitely. Definitely. And we are all well connected to it. Melanie said 301 Warriors. Oh man, yo, y'all don't understand how excited I am for everybody. Like, man, it's crazy. Brandy said 301 on repeat. At a red light, headed to work. Oh, come on, Brent. Yo. Brandy on the recap. In the car drop. Come on now. Come on now. Didn't we just talk about habits? That's what I'm talking about. See, like this is another thing that I like to reiterate. Is like how if you really want something bad enough, you're gonna put in the work to get it. When the work is clearly laid out for you to do, just do the work. That's all you got to do. It's like you only given one instruction, really. It's 301 to repeat. Anytime that you hear a recap or a live stream, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing. 301 to repeat. You see? So everything that we discuss and that we dialogue about is as a result of the elevation that comes as a result of the repetition of training. The reason that we are operating at such a high vibration is because the training is second nature. Well, how did that happen? It's because the habit of training is second nature. That's how it does. It's not the other way around. You don't create a good habit by doing bad things habitually. You create a good habit by doing the right things habitually. You see what I'm saying? So you can't expect the results to be a certain way if the habits ain't a certain way. They're connected. So what result are you looking for? If you want the results that you see, you got to do what we do. It's simple. It's that simple. Rich said TA is inevitable freedom. Yes. Yes, it's only a matter of time, man. And it's so funny because people give so much emphasis to time, don't they? It's like everybody puts time on a pedestal when you really should put time in the background. That should be the last thing you're thinking of, is how long. Stop thinking how long. Because it's not even a fair assessment to say that. That's like saying, hey man, I want to become awesome at doing this. Well, how long have you been training to do it? Oh, I just started. All right, well, we don't know how long it's going to take you. It's just like, all right, you're a certain way and you 35 years old. How long did it take you to become who you are right now? It took you 35 years. Like, just think about that for a second. So you're telling me that all of the baggage and all of the bad habits that you created within 35 years, you think you're going to break them up in 3 months? Does that even make sense? You got 35 years of bad habits and all type of bullshit that you've been doing and creating, and you know it, but you trying to change it all in a month. No, doesn't work like that. That's why nothing works like that. That's why when people have that mentality out the gate, when they start doing something, you already know that they're not going to make it, because they're already bringing the wrong energy into the midst of what needs to be done to change their habits. You can't change no habits like that. You in denial, first of all. You literally think you're going to change 35 years worth of bullshit that you created in a month, even in a year. It took you 35 years to do what you're doing right now. So in your mind, the right way to deal with that is, you know what? It's going to take me however long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start suffocating my bullshit with some real shit. In other words, I'm going to take this and I'm going to suffocate my nonsense with the repetition of this. And that's how we get through and we push through, because the only way through is to get through. There's no shortcut. If you want to get through your bullshit, you got to get through it. Well, how do you do that? You got to suffocate it. Well, how do you suffocate it? Repetition. Repetition of something that has the potential to suffocate it. That's hard. J. Carter said, "Oh shit, man." Yes, right. Worrying about the one thing that you cannot control, time. Jamal said, "You can't control time. You control it by managing it. It takes people a long time because they don't train." And I do understand that. I understand what Jamal is saying also. And yeah, you are right. To a degree, you are correct about that. Because in other words, you can't control time itself. You can control how you interact with time. 100%. Ooh, didn't I just say that? Soon as I finish saying it, I see it typed out. He said, controlling what you do, working that time, isn't controlling time at all. Right. So it's not controlling time itself. It's controlling you. Good stuff. Good stuff. It's so crazy how we be on the same vibe, like no matter what perspective that we looking at it from. The vibe is hard. Ramon said you have to go through a metamorphosis where you go from the immature BS form where you came from to a higher, more intellectual state that you can let go of your emotions and start appreciating the path that Mark laid down for you to follow through 301, the path towards perpetual freedom. Very well said. That was hard. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. People just being around like this vibration and the level that we're on. And this is something that we talk about all the time, like how this is life lessons. The reason it works in the market is because it works in real life. That's why it works in the market. So understand that the way that we're doing it is a reverse engineering process. It's so funny that when you come into this, you think that you're learning something about the market. Surprise, you're learning everything about yourself. And now it switches up the dynamic and the interaction and relationship between you and the market. The same way we switching up the dynamic and our relationship with time. Life lessons. Life lessons. Come on, man. The more patience you have, the faster shit happens. But patience, man. I don't have time. I don't got time for that. That's why you will, in perpetuity, continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, and you'll slow down everything that you're trying to do because you refuse to be patient. This is a whole nother level of elevation, man. I'm telling you. Whole nother level. That's why TA is the answer. You thought TA was a trading group. Then you get in here, you're like, oh shit, what is this? You can't tell if it's church. Shit sound like an AA group. Shit sound like it sound like we in Tibet somewhere in the mountains. It's all type of wisdom. I'm trying to tell you, man. Because you got to remember that you're dealing with the source. No matter what you do, you're dealing with yourself, aren't you? Every time. Jamal said, what we are saying here is open your videos to the book of 301, chapter 301, verse 301. Yo, that's mic drop shit right there. I like that. I like that. Walker said, time is the constant growing soil that only grows what you plant into it constantly. Yeah, we in mic drop area right now. People will spend 40 years working for retirement. They won't spend a year or even 2 working for freedom. The math makes absolutely no sense. And it's so crazy. People do this shit all the time. Jay Carly, when you speed something up, it gives you a false sense of reality. Things aren't what they seem. So slow down so you can see how it truly is. All right, time to go. Time to go. I'm out. I will see y'all on training tomorrow. Peace.